Yo, it's John, and it's time for the JMART CAST for November 15th, 2021. What is going on? How are you, friends and family? Speaking of friends and family, I have a special guest on the podcast today. Today, joining us on the JMART CAST is Trees, also known as my brother Narek. Yo, what's up, Narek?
What's up, Mr. J-Mart CAST? It is my pleasure to be here. I'm ready to contribute my crazy ideas and my weird way of looking at the world to the wonderful J-Mart CAST, which I am a weekly subscriber of.
Awesome. You don't have to call me JMART CAST, just JMART is okay. That's just the name of the show.
My bad. J-Mart, even though you're my brother. I'll still call you J-Mart.
Call me what you want. It doesn't matter. Anyways.
Careful.
How's your week been so far? Oh, that's your dog barking. I don't know if you probably can't hear it because the mic's not picking it up, but Leo's having a fit right now. Do you want to go check on him?
Yeah, let me just make sure so that he doesn't wake anybody up.
No worries. And with that, with the magic of recording, we're back. Thanks for waiting, ladies and gentlemen. Probably was no time for you to wait at all. I just love using Bill Burr's themes that he always brings back in his episodes, where whenever he has to stop recording, he always says the same stuff. So I've listened to it so many times that I know it's when I have a similar situation.
The magic of recording, baby.
Yep. So how's your week been? Anything new? I guess we've already caught up a little bit, having talked and stuff. Is there anything you missed telling me, or do you want to share with the people on the JMART CAST?
Well, I guess one small highlight, although I'm not sure if I could call it a highlight, maybe a bit more of a low light, was me almost getting jumped in downtown Ottawa. And that was quite a tale. I can go into that story if you want, if it's...
Yeah. You already shared it with me, but I wouldn't mind you telling it one more time on the podcast. Yeah, we can kind of just set it up that you were just... was it late night?
Yeah, so I'll tell a story and maybe some good content, interesting stories. So I'm downtown Ottawa. I met up with a buddy of mine. You know, we're having some drinks, eating some food, having a good time. No big deal, right? We're downtown in the market, Ottawa, and maybe around 10 o'clock, we part ways, have a good time, whatever. And I'm walking back home to my car. And as I'm going towards Rideau Street, which is one of the main streets in Ottawa, I hear a bunch of music that's being played via this Bluetooth speaker, right? And there's these kids, they're dancing, having a good time. I'm like, okay, cool, all good. I'm just walking by. I look to my right, and all of a sudden, this tall gentleman starts approaching me.
He wasn't a gentleman.
This dude, he looked like he was out of it, and whether he was drunk, he was high, I don't know what he was, but all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere and he starts saying some illegible stuff to me. He's like, yo, what are you looking at, or something like that. And then he literally went and threw arms at me. He threw a fist at me. I'm like, what the hell? So I backed up, and I'm like, bro, you better get the fuck away from me. You better. That's the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. Guess what? I'm like, literally, your fight or flight instinct kicks in. I'm not expecting this at all. I just had a good time with my friend. I'm just freaking chilling, trying to get home, have a good night. And then out of nowhere, this dude comes up to me and he's trying to fight me. I'm like, what the hell? Bro, you better get the fuck back from me. I was ready to scrap. And he's like, oh, sorry, just play. I'm like, bro, you don't play like that. You don't fucking play like that. You come to me, I'm gonna fuck you up. I was ready to and then he just backed off and was like, whatever, started dancing or something, went back. This guy was just high or drunk or something. So I'm like, whatever, man. I just walked away. Just he had a bunch of his friends. I'm like, I'm not gonna try to start some shit, First rule of martial arts, walk away, right? If you can't walk away, then,
finish the fight.
Then you can throw some hands, but whatever, man. I'm not trying to be in a fight with a gang of freaking young, drunk, high 19, 20-year-olds or something, So I was like, whatever, crossed the street, called him a bitch a couple more times, and then was on my way. Cussed him out a couple more times, and I was on my way.
Well, I mean, if he's throwing punches at you out of nowhere, it's probably okay to just throw a couple of F-bombs back his way, too.
Yeah, it's the least I could do, right?
Yeah, sounds a bit of a pickle of a situation to get yourself into, not even by anything you did that warranted it that...
No, literally, I was just walking past these guys, just loud music. I was like, okay, cool, young kids, I don't give a shit, have fun, but don't be attacking people on the streets. So if you're in downtown Ottawa walking across Rideau Street, you probably know how sketchy it is with the homeless people and all that stuff. And just keep an eye out for some crazy kids that might be dancing and then coming out and throwing random fists at you.
Yeah. Ottawa's a dangerous place. Stay. Hide your kids. Hide your husbands.
The streets are hot.
Yeah. My big news for the week, I already told you this as well, but I'll just share it on the podcast, is that I have a new podcast guest for the State of Health podcast, not this one, my health education one. Everyone check out, like and subscribe, all that good shit. State of Health, look it up. Apple Podcast, Spotify, you can find it anywhere. But I'm going to have a new exciting guest. It's exciting for me because I'm into the world of health and fitness, so I know this guest and I'm excited to have him on, but probably most of the people listening to this don't know who the guest is going to be. So maybe what I'll do is I'll share it because then people can look it up. But my guest is going to be this guy named Ryan DeBell, and he has his own podcast called Movement Fix. This used to be one of my favorite podcasts about health and fitness that I used to listen to all the time. And I'm so excited to have Ryan come join me on the podcast and talk about some of the things that he's an expert in related to health and fitness and movement. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, pretty stoked for that to have come together. And he has stopped doing his podcast. There's no new episodes if everyone looks it up and checks out Movement Fix, but all the episodes are really good. And in our conversations, he's been saying that he's been getting the hankering to get started with recording some new episodes. So this is coming onto my podcast, might be maybe his first kind of dipping the toe back in the podcast lake. So
there you go, man. You're inspiring, and he inspired you. Now, in turn, you're gonna inspire him to get back on the podcasting thing. And I actually like the story about how you got in touch with him too, because it's worth telling people because it shows like a good way of approaching people to kind of if you want to request something from somebody, just how to go about it where you're not approaching them like in a leeching type of way, or you're trying to take value, you're trying to give value to them, you're trying to add to the conversation. And then from that, it led to him seeing that you're genuinely interested in the subject. You were curious about what he's doing. And then I think that probably helped a lot with him wanting to join you because he saw that you were genuinely and earnestly interested in the subject matter. So I think that's like a big part of the story as well for me.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I reached out to him to say thank you to him because there was a healthcare provider business webinar that he was providing that I attended, and then I followed up with him by sending him a thank you email, and then also just asking him a couple of follow-up questions, which he did encourage us to do, and then we just, through that opening email, started a conversation back and forth, and then eventually I got the courage to ask him to come on my podcast, and he said yes.
There you go. That never hurts to say thank you. You never know what it's going to lead into, right? Everybody appreciates being acknowledged, so beautiful.
Yeah. The other big thing that happened this week, not really a big thing, but kind of note, was I went to my local outdoor supply store to buy some ammo for my shotgun. So last week I shared with the people, with the podcast peeps, that I went hunting and was successful, but I was also unsuccessful a bunch of times and missed a bunch of shots and started running out of ammo, so I had to reload. So I went to get some new ammo, and turns out supply chains have affected ammunitions as well, guns and everything. Yeah.
Damn.
So like they're low on ammo, and
everything's probably super jacked up in price then?
Not yet. The prices are not jacked up, but I couldn't get what I wanted. I had to get something different. It's okay. I still got something. I want to get like a type of ammo that would be good for both hitting geese and ducks at the same time, because they're slightly different sizes. So you need like something in between to hit them both and not like overkill one and not underkill the other.
Okay. Fine balance of destruction.
Yeah, but they didn't have that one, so I had to get separate ammos for each one. So that's kind of annoying, but
so you gotta switch it up every time.
Yeah, depending on what I'm hunting. But anyway, at least I got it. I was gonna get like one box each, and then I was like, wait, is it really bad? With he's like, I'd get two.
Yeah.
He's a good salesman.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you're dealing with the situation, you're actually seeing the shelves empty and not being restocked. It's like, yeah, just to be on the safe side, may as well get a couple extra boxes. You never know.
Yeah, so I ended up just getting 2 each, 2 boxes for geese, 2 boxes for ducks, and now I'm covered for a little while at least. I don't go out that hunting that often. I think I'm hoping to get one more hunt in this year, and then after that, probably baby daughter's going to be in the picture, and then no hunting after that.
Nice, man. I can't wait to one day be able to join you and be able to get on the fields and get my license and all that stuff. Definitely on my list of things to do as well. So it's cool that you're taking the lead on that, and then you can usher in the knowledge to the underlings.
Yeah. No worry. I'll be your hunting guru once
Nice.
I learn how to do it myself.
Okay, perfect. I'm down. Cause yeah, I definitely want to get like a rifle, shotgun, and just try that whole experience. You know, do you feel like when you're out there, you're like in tune with nature and like you're just really zoned in? Do you feel those like animalistic, primitive instincts come in where you're just like super in tune with your body and you're just like all the noise kind of gets cleared in a sense, and you're just like one with your tools, you're one with your senses, you got your eyes on the birds and all that stuff, you know, like do you get that clarity?
Kind of, not like not exactly quite that much. I do get like a fight or flight response when the birds are flying nearby and it looks like they might be landing soon. I definitely feel my heart racing, my palms are getting sweaty, and then but at the same time I've been getting better at going over a mental checklist of like one thing that I've been paying attention to is just kind of getting the butt of the gun right into my shoulder ahead of time so that I'm ready. So when I get up to shoot, the gun's almost already in the right place, and I just have to just aim it in the right direction. So I've been kind of going through that in my mind.
So it's all the mental checks you have to do, kind of like repeating them over and over. It's kind of like becomes like a mantra you're repeating in order to like get yourself in the zone.
Yeah, because then there's times where I'm not 100% prepared, and then I get up and then I'm like, oh crap, I need to do this, I need to do that before I can shoot. And then by the time I do all those other things, then the shot is already not like lost. Yeah, I missed it.
You have like that small window of opportunity, and if you hesitate for a second, then it's gone. Kind of, it really kind of reminds me of that premise of how our repetitions and our cycles can free us. You know, our habits can free us in a sense where sometimes like people have a perception that, you know, repetition is bad. It's like, I don't want to be stuck in the same cycle, same pattern of behavior. But it goes to show how repeating certain things over and over can actually help free up your mind in order to focus on maybe more important things by virtue of having a system. You've developed a system. Okay, check this, check that. Is the butt of the gun on the shoulder, all this stuff. And then like you can spend more of that energy focusing on, okay, like making sure your shot is accurate and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like when you have a morning routine and then you just kind of keep doing your morning routine and you take care of all the things that need to be taken care of in the morning through the morning routine, and you have a bunch of free time to devote to whatever work or anything else.
That's awesome. So when you get that fight or flight response, does going through these checks kind of help simmer that down? Do you find like it helps, like because I imagine like maybe having like sweaty palms and all that stuff, maybe that's not the best for when you're trying to be focused and stuff. So do these things kind of help you like okay, refocus, rezone in, and so that way you're able to hit your target and stuff?
I think so, yeah. It just gives me something to focus on that's not worrying, right? If I'm worrying about something, I'm probably not going to be hitting the target. But if I'm going over my checklist in my mind and making sure I do those things on my checklist, then by the time I get through the checklist, it's almost time to rise up and take the shot. And then it's like, okay, well, at least I didn't waste my time worrying about it, and now I'm ready to go.
Nice. That's beautiful.
So yeah. What else this week? Yeah, well, there was Remembrance Day this week, November 11th. Happy Remembrance Day to everybody.
Happy Remembrance Day, Veterans Day, all that good stuff.
I recited the Flanders Field home to you earlier this weekend, and you're like, that was random.
I mean, like, yeah, we were just kind of sitting like around, like watching a movie or something. But I don't know what was happening. And just kind of like busted out the poem. Like, I'm cool. I'm down. Like, it's like, okay.
No one's ever like recited poem to you just randomly.
Not the Flanders Fields one. Like, no, respect. Pay homage to the troops.
It was just the first verse. It wasn't the whole thing either.
Yeah, are you gonna bust it out on the podcast?
I think I should. That's why I memorized it.
Okay. Oh, okay. Let's do this.
But I only have the first verse. Maybe I'll look up the rest. Well, I have a witness here that can like at least like approve that I did the first verse by memory and not by looking it up.
Okay, the first verse. Right? I think I could probably do the first verse off the top of my head. Like,
okay, like, in Flanders Field, I'll give you the first
line. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row by row.
Row on row.
Row on. Oh, okay. Row on row. By on. that mark their graves.
That mark our place.
Okay, that's that.
And in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below.
Mm-hmm. Boom. Beautiful.
Now we're gonna look up the rest.
This is bringing what's it called? Goosebumps. I'm having goosebumps in the back of my hairs.
I get goosebumps when somebody recites like a good poem, especially in Flanders Field. Like that's a classic poem.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. I got the goosebumps for sure, man.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. All kidding aside, it is for sure. And especially like, you know, when they're commemorating Remembrance Day and then you hear the trumpet song that's played, it's like like
yeah. What is that called?
It's like this. It's like the thing that they always play on it. Shame on me for not knowing it, but that trumpet playing, like, it always gives me goosebumps as well. Like, listening to that, it's so, I don't know. It's almost like haunting. The bugle calls or whatever.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, maybe a bugle, not a trumpet. Yeah, because I know they have like a specific thing. Where it's got that somber sound. Dun, dun.
First call sound.
Oh.
Yeah,
Never mind.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to look it up.
Is this it?
The sound of revelation.
Okay.
Nah, yeah. It's it's like the traditional thing that you hear when all the soldiers are there and they're standing still commemorating and stuff. And one thing that pissed me off about Remembrance Day is that there was like some graffiti that was on like one of the monuments for like the fallen soldiers. Like,
yeah, I saw that. It said the real heroes are the vaccinated.
Yeah, so crazy, man. So crazy that somebody felt like that was something that was worth writing down on the memorials of fallen soldiers.
Well, I bet it's just somebody pissed off, right? Like, somebody's pissed off with all what's going on with the coercion of like vaccine mandates, and he's just expressing his anger through not a good way. Like, I don't endorse that, but you know, there's a reason why people are acting out.
I think that it's like the opposite. I think it's like the people that are really for the vaccine side that are more than likely the ones that would have like desecrated these memorials. And like, who knows, I guess, like, at the end of the day, it was all speculation. But to me, like, what I initially thought was that, like, because people that are really on this side of the fence, they might be also kind of like against military, or they might be against I don't know, like, I just have that perception that it would be like more of like a left-wing thing to do, and typically left-wing people are ones that are anti-military spending. They're not really down for that kind of stuff. That's my perception anyways. That's why you always hear, like, you know, left-wing people, when they get into office, they kind of like cut funding for military, whereas like the right will fund military. So that's why I feel like there's like some left person that's like trying to send a message that, yeah, like, the real heroes are the vaccinated, screw these military people. Like, they're probably thinking, I wish the communists won, like, we would have had the socialist utopia by now. That was my perception of it. But
the way I saw it was that, like, this was making fun of the vaccinated, because I thought it was ironic. Somebody wrote, like, in irony that, like, the vaccinated people, their names should be on these monuments for real heroes, right? People whose names are etched on those monuments, those are the real heroes. But as a joke, as to like how it's perceived in society now, you're a hero if you vaccinate, and you're a villain if you don't. If you're unvaccinated, you're a villain. So it's trying to kind of make fun of that by portraying these people who claim to be heroes when they're really not, over real heroes, to make fun of them. To
See, I would think that was the case had it been like more of a high quality graffiti. But, you know what I mean? Like if somebody like, because if you're like on that level, you're like trying to send like a message, you're like thinking of like almost like 2-dimensional level, you know, or 2-3 dimensions, you know, ahead, and you would have like put like a nice, like, I don't know, I feel like they would have put together like a nicer graffiti than just like a quick little, the real heroes are the unvaccinated. I feel like it was just like some kids that were
definitely
like
kids,
like,
some dumb teenagers that did that. Like nobody else would be stupid enough to do that.
Now I'm curious if we ever find these kids, which theory is correct? Which theory? Interesting. Hopefully we do catch those kids and ship them off to Afghanistan or something. The Taliban can deal with them.
All right, these are just jokes, folks. Jokes. Anyways, we'll finish off with this last story that we can like joke about for a little while here. So my wife, who's a medical doctor, emergency medicine doctor, and she was telling me that a colleague of hers just kind of sent a group email to her and a bunch of other colleagues saying that prostate exams. I was going to call them digital rectal exams, but everyone knows what prostate exam is. People don't always know what digital rectal exam is.
I would be in that camp. I'd be like, digital rectal exam, what?
Digit, finger, rectal.
Okay.
You get it.
Okay, I thought it was like digital, like it was like being done with some electronics or something.
Yeah. No, I could see that. But prostate exams used as like a general screen on the population, those are no longer based in evidence, meaning that doing them as a screen for people doesn't actually reduce mortality from prostate cancer. So,
Really?
Yeah. So basically, it doesn't mean that they're going to stop doing them, prostate exams, but they're no longer going to do them as just a basic screen on everybody who like reaches the age of 50, right? That was the old joke, like, oh, you reach 50, it's time to get the butt up your finger.
Finger up your butt.
Yeah, so butt up your finger.
If you're into it that way, right?
Yeah, whatever. Finger up your butt, and so that's not happening anymore as a screen.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, so it decreased the incidence of dying from prostate cancer. So if there's some sort of worry that you might have prostate cancer, they would still do it as a way of testing, but it wouldn't be just a screen that you apply to everybody. Blanket.
Right. You would have to actively request that.
Yeah, and that was my joke, was like how back in the day, if you were some creep that wanted a fucking finger up your ass, all you had to do was wait for 50, and boom, your wish got like...
I guess now you don't have to wait till you're 50.
Well, now you
based on your request.
Yeah, but now you're outed. Now you're outed when you ask for it. When you ask for it, you're like, oh shit, this guy's a creep. He wants a finger up his butt.
I think the doctors are gonna out you like on freaking Reddit. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, we still have doctor
dox you
confidentiality, but the doctor knows. Before it'd be like whatever. The doctor couldn't tell who were the normies and who were the creeps.
Oh, okay. Now this is like you're gonna. So you say everybody that wants the prostate exam is a creep.
If you just wanted blanket up your finger up your ass, you're not a creep, but like, you're different.
Cut from a different cloth.
Yeah.
Not cut from the same cloth. I mean, it's one of those things where did they actually have like evidence to show that there's no like rationale to continue this practice, or like I'm kind of curious of like how they came to this decision, because if it's been applied for so long. Was there like a astounding amount of evidence that came that we're kind of like wasting time and energy? Like, is it like are they gonna save on resources or something like that? Like, what's the rationale?
I don't have too many details, but I think all I can say is that after a prolonged period of time where the prostate exam was used as a screen on all new 50-year-olds as a way of assessing whether someone's got the start of prostate exam, after so many years, we haven't seen a decrease in the incidence of people dying from prostate cancer. So if we're not actually helping less people die from this cancer, why are we sticking fingers up their butts?
I guess the argument would be that maybe it would help with detecting on a sooner basis or on an earlier basis. Sure, maybe the if you're measuring if you're measuring the efficacy based off of mortality, then okay, maybe no. But if you're measuring efficacy based off of early diagnosis, where you wouldn't have gotten those diagnoses beforehand, then maybe, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be bad to know. I don't know, but
yeah, that's debatable. But no one can debate whether the incidence of dying from prostate cancer, whether we want that to go up or down. We want that to go down.
Right.
Whether we know about whether we have prostate cancer, some people don't want to know.
No.
And if it doesn't make a difference whether you're gonna die sooner or later, then maybe it's not worth knowing. So that's debatable.
Well, I mean, I guess the question would be that maybe they didn't see like statistically significant drop, but could you make the case that on an anecdotal level, maybe there were some individuals that did benefit from getting an earlier diagnosis, and maybe it wasn't significant enough to register as a significant impact having this early diagnosis, but that doesn't mean that there weren't individual cases of people that maybe benefit from it. So then that's how I would look at it, is that like, okay, maybe, on a population average level, then you're not seeing like a major difference. But on a case by case basis, like I'm sure there's still some people that maybe would want to know that they had it earlier on than not, or being able to take the proper steps. So it's just kind of like an interesting approach in that, if you think of it from like that point of view, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of like skill involved. It's funny to say about skill about someone shoving a finger up your butt. But like there actually is like there's some people who can do it and detect something, and some people who can do it and maybe there's something there and they don't detect it. So there's a lot of skill involved with this as well.
Right.
So it's not just a straight across the board numbers thing. There's quantity and quality involved.
Right.
So I would tend to side with you, is that we can't throw the baby with the bathwater. So it doesn't mean like we shouldn't ever do prostate exams ever again. We just need maybe better trained doctors and more correct application at the right time. So at the end of the day, it's a tool. Right. Every tool has a right job. Every tool also has a wrong job. Like you can't use a hammer for painting a picture, right?
Right. And to that end, though, if the doctors are doing these tests on a lower frequency, then could that potentially impact that knowledge, as you say, where, just kind of like through repetition, you like improve your skills in any craft, right? So if you're decreasing your reps, then is that maybe potentially going to decrease the knowledge of what you're looking for?
100%. I'm sure that's going to happen. Like we have a personal story that goes along the same lines. Like, so Carly's like pregnant right now, and the baby's like breech still hasn't turned head down. And because at some point people decided that breech births were like dangerous, they stopped doing breech births and only did C-sections. But then like there's some new evidence or analysis that shows that like breech births are fine for a certain subpopulation of people and not fine for others. So it's okay to do breech births. You just got to make sure they meet these other check marks that like make it low risk. But because they hadn't done it in so many decades, now you can't even find a doctor who's willing to do these breech births.
There you go.
So now
it's
we're
lost.
Like, it's a lost art unless like they retrain people.
Exactly. And it's all based off of like what people believe is the truth, but meanwhile, it's tough when you're trying to follow the evidence, but meanwhile you don't have. I think really to me what that shows is the issue of trying to average things out, and how averages to anything really make you miss out on the nuances of a situation, where like it's easy to get lost in averages. Meanwhile, so many people, like, who is the average person? Like, who is this average person when you think about it? Like, it's all just like statistics, right? Like, like I don't know. You kind of like miss out from these nuances when you're not doing like multi-factor analysis, where you're looking at maybe their age, where you're looking at maybe freaking what else? Maybe like ethnicity. I don't know. That could be a factor. Or like their weight. Like all these other parameters, and trying to factor those in. But we're so keen to do single factor analysis because it's just like the easy thing to do.
Yeah, it's reductionist thinking, and there's nothing wrong with reductionist thinking because it helps you like make some pretty amazing like calculations or predictions. But ultimately, you have to remember that it's still reductionist, and the truth is a lot more complex.
Yeah, exactly. And just really like the whole notion of don't throw the baby with the bathwater thing.
Yeah. No one's an average of everything, right? Everyone's like at an extreme end on some sort of quality.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, that's like, we're done a half an hour, and then I usually end off the podcast with a little bit of a Bitcoin update. So let's do like the J-Mart Bitcoin update. We're on block height 709,701. Boom.
Booyah shaka.
Where was the price at? 63,949. We are basically at about the same level we were at as a week ago. Not a lot of change, just a lot of sideways consolidation. But as always, the price does not matter. What matters is what makes Bitcoin special. And what makes Bitcoin special is that no one controls it. And it is digital money that is controlled by code, not by people. Because I don't trust people.
Exactly. I think that's a good way to highlight its benefits. To me, there's anyways, like that's one of the biggest benefits of it is that it is a truly decentralized network where you don't have to go to the traditional gatekeepers, to the big banks where they have to ask you about what you're doing, why you're sending this, give me all your money. It's like, oh, they got to get their cut and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
can you sort of cut you off? Like you've had some personal like experience recently where you're trying to use your money to buy some shit, and the bank was making it really difficult for you to do that, and you really saw the value add of Bitcoin. And the fact that you can control your own money. Could you share that a little bit before we end the podcast today?
Yeah, actually, because it ties in real well. But basically, I was trying to purchase something that was relatively on the more expensive side of things. So you can't
5 figures, bitch.
Okay, relax. I'm exposing him a number. Easy. That's a lie. Propaganda. Fake news, folks. But yeah, basically, it was more than you can do with an average credit card. Because I'm an average person, average credit card, no big, no. I'm not making crazy money. So yeah, trying to send this transfer, big chunk of money, and I had to do it to the bank with the traditional wire transfer, right? Which is how they used to do it back in the days when you see like those movies where the villain is like, wire me the money to this account, like, and they do it, and it's on the computer and stuff. That's still how banks transfer money, like large sums of money. And in order to do that, you have to first book an appointment. You have to find the right time. You have to get a whole bunch of information related to the account, the address, the owners, the bank, and then their address. Like so many bits of information. And then you go to the bank. Then you have to give them this information. Then they type it in. Some freaking 19-year-old dweeb that's like half asleep or like like half baked or something, and he's gotta put it all into the computer. Then they gotta get you to check it so that freaking 19-year-old dweeb didn't mess up when they're inputting all the bits of information, and like you gotta double check his work, and it's just like. And they're asking you for all this bits of information and why you're sending it and like who you're sending it and like this and that. And it's just like, okay. I see why you guys are so scared of Bitcoin. I see where you guys are terrified of Bitcoin because all this is just so antiquated and just so outdated and so redundant. Like, why would anybody waste their time with this crap and waste like hours of their day in order to send money when they can literally do the same?
Scan
a
QR code, wait 10 minutes, boom.
Legit, like it's tens fractions of a second to get all this done. And I'm just like, okay, like before I was like, obviously I was still I saw the benefits of Bitcoin, but then just kind of going through that experience itself, you just really see like, okay, like yeah, this is inevitable. Like as people see, and then you look at freaking inflation, you look at if you just leave your money in your bank, You're being a good boy. You're saving your stuff. You're being diligent. You're being responsible. You're not spending it frivolously on TVs and bullshit, cars, all this stuff, making yourself more in debt. You're losing money. You're. There's a freaking inflation tax where the value of your money is decreasing.
6% in the U.S. It printed the monthly CPI.
Exactly, man. Like that's insane, and like most in like the last 30 years or something, and it's like they were saying it's going to be transitory, but now they're like, no, maybe not so transitory.
Yeah, the definition of transitory is a bit of a flexible definition because it could mean anything. Like, it depends on the time scale you're looking at. Ice ages are transitory. They come in and come out.
Exactly. Global warming is transitory. That it comes and goes. Like, it's a cycle, right? Like, so it's like, what do you mean by like, what is the time frame that we're looking at? And it just further illustrates that the power of Bitcoin. And people are saying like, okay, I'm leaving my money in the bank, I'm losing it. So and they're looking at cryptos, they're looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're seeing the price go up, and they're like, screw it, why the hell not? I'm gonna go to these exchanges now. These exchanges are more established than ever before. We have like Coinbase and so on, Kraken and Crypto.com, so on and so forth. So they're relatively safe. They're not scams. They're established websites, and it's easier than ever to convert your money into Bitcoin or other form of crypto. And
I will just interject here that I think that other forms of crypto are scams. Only Bitcoin is the real money that you should put money into.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why I don't even use those exchanges like you said, like Coinbase. I don't use Kraken. I don't use Crypto.com. I used for a month because their first month you get like no fees.
Yeah.
So I use it for that.
Yeah.
But I don't even use that. If anyone wants a good exchange, especially people listening to this here in Canada, use Shakepay. That's the one that I use. It's good, low fees. And I have a referral link. I'll put that in the description. I have it in the description. So go through that.
Nice. Do that. Use the referral, kick back. You get some. We get some.
Yeah, I think you get like 10 or $30. I can't remember which one it is right now. But just to take it back to that 19-year-old dweeb you were complaining about, didn't that guy make multiple mistakes when you were like...
Exactly. Yeah. And he made mistakes that I had to like go through. I'm like, dude, you did this wrong. You did that wrong. And in the end, I didn't even notice, but like even I messed up one of the data points. And literally, the city that it was supposed to go to was wrong. The city was put in the address, so the city was still there. But where the city should have been, it was actually the state, right? So I'm like, shit. And then like after the fact, I'm like, oh man, can we change it? Like, oh, it's been sent. We can't do this. I'm like, and then I'm like, well, like, why do you actually like on the back of your thing say, hey, we can actually try to recoup your funds after it's been sent? But you're just being lazy right now. You don't care. But like, I don't know. Luckily, it was like a small bit of information that didn't impact the transfer, and the transfer did go through.
Okay.
Because the it was just like, again, like the city, and like it was part of it was just written in the wrong field. But but that was just one of the mistakes that I didn't catch. But there were like two others that I did. I'm just like, man, like what? It's just like, dude,
what
like,
is he even there for?
Like, I don't know. Just like, I think perfect candidate to be replaced by a machine.
Yes.
Candidate. You're getting replaced by a robot.
Yeah, go flip some burgers or something. Still don't have robots for that.
And I will say, I know you're kind of like more on the extreme side of like a Bitcoin purist, so that's maybe where we differ. But I mean, obviously, I acknowledge Bitcoin as like kind of like the mother of all like cryptos, obviously. But I mean, there's of course money to be made on some of the other ones too, and Ethereum, of course, does have merit, but just by virtue of like the NFTs that come from it. Although some people then think that's a scam too, so that's a whole other debate
the way
as
you
well.
can think of it is think of Bitcoin as saving your money, and then all the other cryptocurrencies as investing in something that you speculate.
Yeah,
that's the way I think about it. That's a good framework.
Exactly. That's how it's kind of like the new gold standard. That's how I see Bitcoin. Like if you like back in the days when people were like, okay, we have some money and I want to store it in something that I know is going to have value from like to the end of time. Gold was that standard, right? So then similarly, I think now Bitcoin is the new gold standard where you can store your money in that and it's going to be there. And there's a lot of value in it, I think.
We just got to orange pill more people.
Yes, it's gonna happen, man. It's gonna happen. There's more people.
We got mom and dad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and like, if we can get those, then anybody's really down. When you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, they just trust us. That's why they did it. But I mean, we need like to get more old people to get on this because they're screwed, man. All the people on fixed incomes that have all their money in like bonds and crap, like they're done.
Yeah.
All their money is like losing value as we speak.
Exactly. It's so sad. And then
most people are in a 60-40 portfolio, right? Where the 60 is bonds, and those bonds are in a negative yield for like over years now. So it's like those people are screwed.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough situation for a lot of old people that are like maybe approaching retirement. They had money saved up. They thought they were good. Now all of a sudden, boom, inflation. You have maybe like a third, or not a third, but maybe you had much less than what you had anticipated. Now, what are you gonna do? Go back to work at like 70 or something? It's a really shitty situation that this government spending and has driven, and yet their solution is like more spending, more cowbell, gang, more cowbell. Like it's literally that SNL episode where it was Will Ferrell, and he's just like more cowbell.
Yeah.
Like I think more cowbell is necessary.
Yeah, but some people, or for example, some old people who were smart enough to invest in real estate. Those people are like, even though like if they have a lot of their savings in bonds, if they have a house, at least their house is appreciated to kind of battle some of the depreciation of their bonds.
Yeah. If you're lucky enough to have a house, then yeah. Thankfully.
So there's at least that. So then the young people who haven't had a chance to get a house yet, now they're outpriced out of the real estate market.
Yeah, and that's just a whole nother issue we can go into of like, why are these housing prices so high, and should they really have appreciated this much? And
we basically made like probably $100K a year on our house since we bought it in price appreciation, which like that shouldn't be like how things work.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like almost like unheard of, but when you're looking at Toronto and Vancouver, which is like the hottest housing markets like in the world, then you see that stuff happening, and but nobody's asking like what is the cause. Everybody's just saying, oh, we need to increase the minimum wage. Oh yeah, you think by increasing the minimum wage by like 20 cents to like 15.25, that's gonna help you with your ability to buy buy $1 million house or something like in Toronto? Like, good luck. You think that's gonna solve the issue? Okay, yeah. That's just like how
out of touch the politicians are.
It's how out of touch the politicians are, but it's also how like there's a lack of education with how the monetary system works, where we think that, oh, the price of goods has gone up, so therefore we need to increase the minimum wage so that way it keeps up. But then they don't realize that creates this feedback loop, like a positive feedback loop, but that's just going to drive prices up even more. Then they're going to have to raise your wage more. It's literally a cat and mouse game that you're creating without actually looking at the core, the fundamentals of the system that's creating this incentive structure in the first place, man. That's
the problem. Is the money. It's the shitty money that you can just inflate ad infinitum.
Exactly. And when you don't have that separation of power, when you don't have that which is really funny, because like when you look at the US, like for the longest time, like people will criticize it. We're like, oh, the Federal Reserve is separate from the government, and why would they do that? It's like a bunch of private corporations, these banks owning the money printing system, and that's why US is corrupt. But then you realize that was done for a specific reason, in order to separate the power, so that way the printing capacity for the money wasn't in the hands of the government itself. There was some checks and balances.
They'd be tempted to just keep printing.
Exactly. Like, so
that's what they did for World War II.
And there's so much, I don't know, it's just like the lack of the historical understanding of it, and maybe it's done on purpose, arguably, or who knows, maybe
for sure it's done on purpose. Well, I just recently told you about that. What is it? Executive Order 6103 or something like that. That was the executive order that FDR signed in the United States in 1933 that confiscated all the gold from civilians, from regular people. Only like the gold was taken, and then in return they gave them dollars, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they were given dollars, but they were never allowed to trade the dollars back for gold if they were just people, right? The only entities who could trade dollars back for gold would be other countries, but even that was stopped in 1971. And all of this, like, nobody knows about it. Like, I didn't know about this till very recently, till I got interested in Bitcoin, and I started studying history and understanding what money is, you know, asking and trying to answer that question, what is money? But if it was like taught and everybody knew about this stuff, then everybody would have a whole bunch of questions, like, really difficult to answer questions that Mr. Trudeau, freaking second-rate math teacher that thinks budgets can balance themselves, and he doesn't care about monetary policy. That I'm gonna stop it there.
It's got to even release like a budget for like the past 2 years. Like I think he just released one or something. Like I don't even know.
I don't know, but if then he would have some hard questions to answer. He wouldn't be able to rely on his drama skills to be able to answer those questions, and then he would be booted out.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's the politicians can really take advantage and seize off people's ignorance like this. And another example of this is what's being proposed now in the U.S., where I believe it's the Democrats that are saying that they want to tax unrealized gains, which is absolute insanity,
asinine.
And they're trying to get it through Congress and get it passed by virtue of them saying, oh, it's only to billionaires. It's only to a certain, like maybe like there's like 100 people that are going to be subject to this tax. But do you really think that if the government gets their foot in that door, they're not going to expand it? Yeah. They're not going to eventually trickle that down to, oh, well, maybe the 100 millionaires. Oh, the 10 millionaires. Oh, the millionaires. Maybe the 100,000.
The way things are going, everyone's going to be a billionaire pretty soon. Like, the way money's being depreciated, like everyone's going to have a bunch of billions of dollars.
It just won't be worth crap.
Another good example of how, like, uninformed people are. I was telling my father-in-law about how, like, the Bank of Canada, it has expanded its balance sheet, like, drastically. And then how interest rates are still low, like basically close to 0%. He's like, really? I can't believe that. Like, when inflation's high, you're supposed to increase increase interest
like,
rates.
Where you been, bro?
That's what they did when I was like younger. Like, he was like from the days when bonds were returning over 10%. Like, come on, man, pay attention to what's going on around you.
I guess it's just so hard for people, man. Like,
there's too much stuff.
Just too much going on, and it's just like you got
like family and like
life, and then but at the same time, like, it is kind of like going back to like conversation of like your like rights and responsibilities, like civic duties. You do have to have your eye on these things. It is your duty as a citizen in a democratic state to check on the politicians. Like, we forget that the whole reason this whole democratic thing is that the politicians are accountable to us, and if we are uninformed to what the politicians are doing, that's what allows them to do all these things that then we're surprised, like, oh, what are they doing? And then by the time they find out, they're shocked by it. But like, where you been for the last 10 years, man? This has been going on since like 2008, quantitative easing, bro. Like, it's kind of like it's unfortunate. And you understand people have lives and stuff, but it's just like, man, we've forgotten that ultimately politicians are accountable to the people. And I have this actually cool idea that I've been toying with, and that is, and we're kind of going off a tangent here, but I've had this idea for a while that we need to actually have more referendums as a result. So whenever these big decisions are made, what we do is we theorize that the politicians have been voted on to represent the votes or the wills of the people, right? We have representative democracy, but that stems from the ancient ideas of essentially being ruled by a monarch. So when we take a step back, like let's say 1,000 years, when we had kings and queens, right? We had a very concrete line that separated who were the ruling class and who were the peasants, right? If you were peasants, you're working the field. You're not thinking about politics. You're not thinking about monetary policy. You're not thinking about wars and all that kind of stuff. You don't even know, right? You're just on the field doing your thing. That's for the higher class, for the elites, for the kings and queens, lords and such. But through the evolution of the democratic process, it's essentially allowed for a greater dissemination of political information to people that aren't in the political class. So the average individual, via dissemination of information via internet, is more or less like quite informed with what's going on there, or at least they can be. The information is there. Maybe, of course, politicians, they have some information that it maybe isn't known to the average individual, but if we look at relative to like 1,000 years ago, it's gone down significantly, right? So what my theory is that if there's before we would grant these abilities to the kings, to the nobles to rule for us because they were the political class. But because the political information has essentially been distributed to the everyday individual, my theory is that we need to have more referendums to give people the opportunity to actually vote on the things that they want on a more direct basis and essentially cut out the middleman, because what is the politician? They're the middleman to our desires. But if we know what the desire is and we can just vote on it, then why don't we just do it from that point of view? I mean, assuming that we're not voting against like fundamental rights that should be embedded, for example, like, you know, freedom of speech and freedom and right to bear to your own property and those things. Obviously, we can't have a referendum against those things because then that leads to potentially like more tyranny, more problems. But like barring aside these like kind of these core values that society is built on, we should be able to vote on these kind of transitory things. That's my theory anyways, because again, I go back to the idea that we are now more informed than ever before in terms of the politics, the information that's going on, and we should thus have more power too, because essentially, like when you look at the trend, that's what the trend has been, right? The power has been disseminated by virtue of lowering from kings to like more democratic representation, and I see this as like the natural progression of that even more so down the line.
Yeah, I could see that. My only problem with that is that like a lot of people are uninformed and they're driven by like just mainstream media, what they watch on like news, on like CBC News or like whatever, cable news, whatever they watch, like that's what drives their opinion. And who controls that mainstream media? That's like, it's some of the politicians, right? Like how much money does CBC get funded with? So like they're just gonna, if they're not seeking alternative points of view to inform themselves with, they're just gonna believe what they see, like the first thing they see, and it's just gonna be kind of how it is now. Like,
but that's my point though.
Politics is driven by like random polls that people do and see like, oh, right now the Vax Pass is polling hot, so let's go with that. Like, you know what I mean?
But that's the point though, is that people are already kind of doing this in terms of the politicians that are making these decisions. They're already essentially disregarding what people are saying. So why not? Or like they're already kind of influenced by external political factors, right? So if we think of like big pharma or other corporations, they have interest and they're trying to exert their influence. Now, what I would say to counter that, so from that point of view, you're actually making the job easier for them, because those big corporations, now they have to focus on influencing just one person, right? All they have to do is get to that one politician or that one kink in the chain, and then once they do that, then the whole thing is corrupt. But now, if you disseminate that power, so again, going back to Bitcoin, the decentralized power grid, that's kind of like the same premise. Yeah. Now, for them to exert that same level of influence, they have to do it to the whole population, which is, it's still doable. Of course, there is still media manipulation of that stuff. But the way that I see that is like net, it kind of balances itself out, because instead of having to influence and corrupt this one person, now there's like a whole population of people, and with alternative media sources, with different ways of gaining your information, there is a large bit of population that is starting to realize that mainstream media is not to be trusted, so they are seeking alternative news farms. And that's where people are so scared of, like, oh, they're talking about like regulating podcasts or like,
man, JMART CAST is gonna get like the biggest audience of like libertarians, and we're gonna separate off. We're gonna have a referendum and separate off from Canada. We're gonna have JMART Castia. I like the idea of voting, generally speaking, but I think I like the idea of voting with your dollars and your feet.
Yes.
Ultimately, that's the best way to vote, and you need good money to be able to vote with good money. So that's why I'm pro Bitcoin, and I'm trying to get everyone who knows me, who trusts me, to adopt this new technology, because it's going to be a way when it happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, we're approaching an hour here. I wanted this to be like just a half hour long. So
Okay.
we're
Good conversation. All right.
We're gonna end it off here. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you everybody for listening. If you have any more questions, hit me up on Instagram, Twitter at JMARTfit. I just got Telegram. Hit me up in there as well at JMARTfit as well. I got Facebook. I don't use it too much, but I do answer my Facebook chats. So JMART Moves on Facebook. And if you got an email or if you want to email me, newsletter at jmartfit.com. Thanks for everyone for listening. Stay active, keep moving, stay healthy, be grateful. Peace. J-Mart out.